I guess another analogy is like that we use in the house is, when you're building a road, first it's just trees, trees are everywhere. So you have to chop off the trees, right? And pull out the roots. So that's kind of like what I did. I chopped off the trees, pulled out the roots. My brother, second brother, he had to lay down the road and the asphalt, kind of make sure everything was even. And the last brother is just driving on it, I don't know where he got the car from, but he's driving on it.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's funny you bring up that road analogy because y'all all ended up at the same stop. Talk a little bit about that. Today, we will discuss growing up in a rural town in eastern North Carolina, transitioning to UNC Chapel Hill, and much more. Without further ado, I welcome Rizk to the friend zone.
Hey, what's up, Coach? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you. Long time no hear.
Bro, it's been it's been too long, man. Saw your pod on YouTube, looking pretty good. Yeah, sorry, I'm not dressed up pretty nice, but still moving into my new apartment. So
Understandably, man. I'm about to move out pretty soon, in a couple months, and it's good to see that you're doing well. You're alive, and I think to get started, bro, we got to hear a little bit about how you even got to the point where you're at right now, med school. I hope you're thriving, but it sounds like you may just be surviving. But we know how Chapel Hill is. It puts you through the ringer. Let's talk a little bit about where you came from originally and where you are now.
Yeah, so I guess to start off with, like I said, I'm from Goldsboro. It's a town about an hour and a half from the Raleigh area, which is kind of like the hub in North Carolina where things happen, capital. My parents are originally from Yemen. My dad's specifically from there, and they came to Goldsboro, sort of heard about it, seeking opportunities in a smaller town, found out about it. I was born in the States. The best way I describe my upbringing is I have American blood, uh, American flesh, everything American, but my spirit is Yemeni. And so, you know, that's I think the best explanation. I'm proud to be both Yemeni and American. I love both cultures, and I think they work together really well. So sort of like I guess a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what do you mean by your spirit is Yemeni? How would you contextualize that?
Yeah, so I think um growing up in my house, we tried to make, like, my dad and mom tried to make sure that we understood the culture, and we knew how to conduct ourselves appropriately in the Yemeni context. Sort of like, there's like certain things you have to do to make sure that you're not like stepping on anyone's feet or like doing the wrong things. And so we understand that. And people are sometimes surprised, like that come from abroad and come here. They're like, wait, y'all weren't born there? And it's like, yeah, we weren't, but like, they made sure that we were able to like understand how to like communicate and sort of little like body language things. I think each culture has unique body language, unique like mannerisms, and so understanding that, you're able to sort of connect to people a bit more, which of course I wouldn't have had if they didn't teach us that. So
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the culture. You just mentioned that as part of the spiritual aspect that you observe or is encapsulated in you. Let's talk about Yemeni culture for those that may not know the language, the music, the food, traditions. Let's touch on that a little bit.
yeah, so I mean, that would require a pretty deep conversation, a pretty long video, but I'm gonna try to like hit some of the shorter points. Like it's in a country in the Middle East. It's like so they speak Arabic. The religion is predominantly Islam, so most people practice Islam and are Muslims. Um, the in terms of culture, I think a lot of times people uh, differentiate like sort of Western culture and Eastern culture based on family values and individualism and these sort of things. And so Yemen is sort of like that, very family oriented, strong, very strong family values, and sort of tribal, very tribal in the sense of like people have different tribes, and you stick with your tribe, and then you make sure that you
Mm,
support each other, you make sure that you stay connected, um, and sort of look out for each other when things happen, when things go wrong. And I think that's something that's sort of missing in the States, like or in the Western world in general. And I think that's why
mm,
gangs come out, is because gangs are basically a byproduct of missing like super strong like connections, together. Um, and I don't know, like that's something that I think is really good. I forgot what else were the
I mean, there's a lot, like you said, we could talk about, but I talked about, the culture. Sorry, specific aspect of the culture, including food, language, gestures. I know for my culture, it's inappropriate to shake someone's hand with your left hand. I don't know if that's similar in Yemeni culture. Is that something you've
Yep,
observed?
yeah, same thing. So like there's like differentiation between that. Yeah, like if you shake someone left hand or if you eat with your left hand, for example,
Mm,
like that's a no-go. That's no good. Um,
yeah.
it's a disrespect, a sign of disrespect.
Hmm.
Elders when they're walking and coming into the home, you can't just sit on TV or like sit on video games. You have to go up there and like, greet them and say like,
Yes.
hi, welcome, stuff like that. And that's things I like when I go to my friends' like homes or apartments, like I don't see that. And I think that's something
Mm,
that's of value. Um, and so that's like part of the culture. Also the food, I mean, you know, that's tough to describe. It's kind of like a mix between we have our own cuisine, like sort of a Yemeni cuisine, and then you kind of like because of this Indian spice trade, you have some African influence, like the Horn of Africa influence,
hmm.
and then you also have sort of the influence from Northern Arabia, so like more of the like Syria and Lebanon and Palestine, sort of bringing in their food culture. So it's kind of a mixed pot between all those different food and flavors, and then we also have our own dishes. So that sort of explains the cuisine a little bit. Of course, I'm not an expert in that at all.
No, no, for sure. I understand, man. I've had some of y'all's cuisine. It's so good. Had a couple of times, and definitely can't wait for the next time I can have it. But speaking about the whole left hand debacle in our cultures, it's interesting because my brother, he's left-handed, and growing up, he had that issue of my parents telling him constantly to use his right hand to eat, to shake people's hands. But it's like when it's your natural instinct to use your left hand, you can see how that can be difficult. Um, also wanted to talk to you about a little bit about your brothers. You have three brothers, two younger than you, but then one older than you. I mean, how was it growing up in your household?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I think having brothers, I enjoyed having brothers. I think I mean, of course, sometimes I'm always like, oh no, how would it have been like to have a sister? But at the same time, I'm like, we were a little aggressive with each other sometimes, and we sort of developed um, sort of coping mechanisms and skills that we were able to take with us as we got older. And thankfully, we're still very close together, and we have similar like mindset and goals and um, ideals. But then I have an older, so there's like you said, I have an older brother who is handicapped, and then I have who has cerebral palsy. He has like a lot of neurological conditions. And so cerebral palsy actually just to like describe it, it's you could be extremely like fully functional cerebral palsy, and then you can be a non-functional with cerebral palsy. And so my brother lies on the non-functional cerebral palsy spectrum. Um, but yeah, it's that was kind of like he's the oldest brother, got all the pampering, got all the like clothes and all the like, first child stuff. But then I had the responsibilities. That's the way I kind of describe it sometimes. It's kind of funny. Um, so I don't know. But yeah, and then my last two brothers are also, um, they're a couple years apart. Uh, so yeah, I think I learned a lot from having my older brother, like taking care of him. I think we all did. The whole family kept us close because we had sort of, like household chores and stuff like that, and we had to take care of him. So
Hmm.
figured out how to share responsibility, um, and stuff like that. And I also want to give a shout out to my mom because she's like, I mean, basically full time doctor, nurse, supporter, and you need that. Like that's something that I think people with any sort of disability, or they don't have a caretaker, it becomes really challenging because the state isn't going to do a good job, as compared to someone who's a family member. Um, and so I think, yeah, that's something important.
Man, that's wonderful. I hope you're not just shouting out your mother because it's Women's History Month. No,
No,
no, I'm joking.
yeah, no.
No, I know you love your mother, and it's a great point that you bring up the amount of care and time it takes to take care of someone who, I guess, can't take care of themselves. Uh, there's a couple of points I wanted to also bring up. First off, have you watched Breaking Bad?
Oh man. So, oh man, Kojo. Uh, it's Breaking Bad. It's funny. I think it came out like what, 2010, 2005, whenever it came out. I think I was in no, no,
I think between, yeah, those 2 years.
yeah, and I never watched it until I had between my gap years. I took a gap year. I took two gap years, and it took me a while to watch it. And I didn't really watch television like that, but
Hmm.
that was something
Hmm.
that was like, yeah, it was pretty. It was a pretty good show. I enjoyed that show. It was, I think there was a lot of like sort of just general lessons to learn from that show, and it was also entertaining. It kind of left you like confused at times, and but then it explained it at the end. Yeah, I think that was a good show.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I'm actually watching it for the first time right now. I'm in the middle of season 3, and it's definitely heating up. But the reason I brought it up is because, Walter Jr., he has cerebral palsy. And you just explained the whole spectrum of I guess, the independent lifestyle that you can have with that condition. And, with Walter, he's, for the most part, he can operate independently. He even is able to learn how to drive. So, I mean, just living with that condition is very interesting. I think still have a lot to learn from it, but I've got a little bit of insight from hearing your story and hearing about your brother's story of how people do deal with it, their family members, how they're affected by it. I love, to be honest, Walter Jr. is probably my favorite character just because he keeps them 100. He'll tell it how it is. We need more people like that in the world. Not people who are going to sugarcoat everything. So I'm definitely enjoying the show. Um, and besides that, are you sure that the older brother always gets all the parents' love, gets the best clothes? Because I don't think that was the case for me. I'm starting to think, granted, my sister, who's the youngest in my family, is the only girl. I'm starting to think the youngest child gets all the pampering. I don't know how you feel about for your youngest brother.
Yeah, maybe if we like in the beginning, I think like when you're not even aware yet,
Hmm.
because the first child is kind of like, and the first is like the first child, right? It's the one that like in the beginning maybe gets all the attention, but then that
Hmm.
attention goes away from them as they have more siblings. So I think like if you were to explain it, it would be
Mm.
like if you're an only child. I mean, no offense to anybody who's an only child, but like you continuously get that attention until
Hmm.
whenever. But then when you're the oldest, you get the attention in the beginning when you're not even
Okay.
conscious of the attention. You lose it, they go to the second kid, then the third kid comes, and the fourth kid comes. The last kid ends up getting all the attention because they're the last one, and so they get
Yeah.
all of that. I mean, I think the same way like I was growing up, they didn't really like parents were very strict with like video games and stuff like that. Looking back on it, I think that was a great idea. But then as we got older, the youngest one gets you get jealous as the older one who because the younger one gets all sort of video games and all these other things. But I think
Yeah.
it's good though. I think everyone has a different experience, and that's what makes everyone unique. So I think that's good though.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Um, to be honest, I would probably describe it as a, I'm trying to think of the proper term for this type of graph, but it's pretty much like a U. I don't know what type of function that would be, but
Parabola.
a parabola. Yes, that's what I'm thinking about. So in terms of like the oldest and the youngest, they probably get most of the attention from the parents. But once it comes to the middle children, that's where they get the least of the attention. I feel like my brother has experienced that. I don't know about you as a middle child or your younger brother, Harela, how y'all have dealt with that growing up, or maybe you experienced something different.
Yeah. No, I think it would probably be the same. Like I probably got a bit more just because I had more responsibilities growing up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess another analogy is like that we use in the house is, when you're building a road, first it's just trees, trees are everywhere. So you have to chop off the trees, right? And pull out the roots. So that's kind of like what I did. I chopped off the trees, pulled out the roots. My brother,
Mm-hmm.
second brother, he had to lay down the road and the asphalt, kind of make sure everything was even. And the last brother is just driving on it, you know. I don't know where
Yeah,
he got the
yeah.
car from, but he's driving on it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny. It's funny you bring up that road analogy because y'all all ended up at the same stop. Talk a little bit about that.
Like you mean like at UNC?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, no, it's definitely like transitioning. It's kind of funny, like thinking back on it. Like me going to UNC wasn't like, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna like go to UNC. It's my dream school my whole life. I gotta go here. My parents want me to go here. Like I said, like in Yemeni culture, we don't really sort of value um like education in school as much as
Mm,
maybe other cultures or what maybe sometimes people think. Um, so it's the family values come first. So like it's sometimes almost better for you to hustle and to work and to make a living for yourself than to go to college because college and university is seen as like a sort of like not a waste of time, but like a not the best use of your time.
mm,
Um, and so us like me going to university, like of course my parents were always like, it's probably a good idea for you to go to school, like I think one thing that my dad told me in particular was like, yo, you treat your school like a job, right? You go to school 8 hours a day. If you're gonna go there, why waste your time there? You're already going there 8 hours a day. Just do like don't be like half-ass. Like don't half-ass your shit, your stuff.
mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Just put in the effort you can put, and see where you get. And that's pretty much the approach. It wasn't like, oh, we have to go to Chapel Hill. We have to go to like some school or whatever. Like, oh, I have to go to an Ivy League. And then in like when I was in high school, my counselor was like, yo, um, thinking about colleges and stuff like that in junior year. I'm like, hey, I think it's a good idea to go to college. I don't see why not, right? Kind of interested in the medical field. Like, I have an idea. I think I want to do this. Mainly the reason why I even saw it is because of my older brother, him going to doctors all the time. I was like, this seems like a pretty cool job. Like you go in, see patients, talk to people, um, and take care of them. And, build a connection. You see someone over the course of like however many years, you cure their disease. Um, so that's kind of like why I went to college was like, this is something I could do. I see myself doing. Um, so then applied to college and then got to UNC. And then I think after that, it was like my brothers were like, oh, they're probably following the same thing. They're like, oh, I guess I'll just apply to college and see what happens. Applied to UNC, um, got in, and then somehow I guess we all got in. You know, I don't know, but
Yeah. No, that's interesting because um, my brother, when I got into Chapel Hill, he always sort of like hated on the school or always talked trash about it. I mean, his dream was to get into state, and like State is considered a rival of Chapel Hill. So it was almost like he was competing with me. I don't know if it was just more banter or he was serious. Still to this day, I have no idea, but I find it hilarious. But it's great to see that the Algarazi's got a little legacy going on here. Chapel Hill. Who knows? Maybe y'all's kids will also be going to Chapel Hill. But you don't know. You don't know.
It goes back to the Yemeni spirit idea. I don't really know
Yeah.
if there's a reason. If you're not really sure why you're going to go to college, I don't see why you're going to go. So.
Yeah, no, and that's a big conversation to be had about why do you go to college. I'm intrigued by that cultural aspect of not necessarily being forced or academics being forced on you, because I can't say the same for myself. I think doing well academically or using education to build a career is definitely a big part of Ghanaian culture. How do you feel like maybe how you grew up shaped your ambition in life?
Oh man, that's a pretty heavy hitter. I think
Yeah.
I think growing up, I just like I was just it sort of goes back to like the if you're forced to be here, don't be a half-ass, right? And so I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm not gonna half-ass. I'm just gonna do my work. I'm gonna do things I need to do. And so not being a half-ass almost led to like, oh wait, this is actually like I'm pretty decent at this. Like I'm pretty decent like memorizing random facts and then taking a random test about the facts, or whatever else, what other kind of skills you learn in school. I did enjoy math a lot, actually. That's like one of the subjects that I enjoyed. I didn't really like any other, and I enjoyed science as well. So like understanding how things work and why they work, or how they, that, I guess that curiosity is sort of like you get that from school. Like you answer questions while you're learning about things, right? And so maybe that's how and why I continue to be in school and like go through with it and not just I don't really see the point. There were definitely some points of doubt when I was an undergrad where I was like, why are you asking this question? Like, why are you being like this? Why are you being complicated? Why are you trying to like just weed people out? Like, I'm here to learn. I'm not here to be confused. Like, you're confusing me more than teaching me. And I think a lot of people at undergrad actually feel like that. Like they're just getting confused instead of learning. And so I don't know. I forgot what the question was. Sorry. I don't know.
Oh, it was pretty much how I guess your maybe nuanced child experience still like influence your ambition that you have today.
Yeah, I think my brother, that's probably the one point I would say that like sort of trying to understand his disease, his the reasons for the way he is, like sort of how are we like treating him, and then one thing leads to another. You're trying to figure out like, oh, why does diabetes run in the family, why is it genetic, why is it, these sort of questions.
Yeah, yeah. And just in case it's not clear, Rizk is still at UNC Chapel Hill in medical school, so I think he's touching a little bit upon why he's pursuing medicine today, trying to understand the pathology of his brother's condition. And he also touched a little bit upon how even though academics wasn't pushed on him, like still having that work ethic to hustle in his culture, it's definitely been important for him, continuing on this academic path, finding something that he's good at and grinding it out. And you know, how we both met was at Chapel Hill in undergrad. Rez, do you remember that exact moment? How we actually came in contact with each other?
Yeah, I think so we were in, so it's like the way the airing house was, you had the airing house, one of the dorms, you had like a suite where there's like two, like 8 people that share a bathroom. And so I don't remember like why I think I came to your room, like we're trying to meet each other, everyone's trying to meet each other. Actually, you know what, I just remember something right now. We there's a poster I had saw like going into the, like, because we're on the second floor, and there was like a
Yes,
billboard.
yes.
Yeah, there's a billboard at the second floor that said, statistically, Airing House suite mates have the longest friendships um, after college.
Wow.
And so I was like, that's BS. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. That can't be like, I don't know how they're going to collect this data. I don't know how they analyze
Yeah.
this data. I don't know what the heck is going on here. Um, and then I think I went to the doctor, like in my hometown, and he went
Mm-hmm.
to UNC for undergrad. And then he said he lived in the same dorm I lived in. And he
Wow.
also had his best friend from that dorm, like from the dorm, from suite mate. And they're still friends to today. And I was like, yo, that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But this was after we had met. So like,
Yeah.
you know, but I think the first time we met, it was over FIFA, I think. It was like Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing FIFA. And then we started playing soccer. I think that was like a
Yeah.
continual thing we were doing every Friday. We were going to play soccer, get back, hang out, play some FIFA. Um, and I think both of our roommates were always out. I think that's what it was. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And so we're just, yeah, man, dude, I remember that place. Like the they were smoking some substances. Our other suite mates were smoking
Yeah.
substances, and so my clothes would end up smelling like that substance. Which that was kind of
You probably had to change your clothes whenever you went back home to see your parents, huh?
yeah. They'd have some head turnings.
Yeah. And the fun thing is your parents would always, well, randomly pop up on you sometimes. So it's like you were always on your P's and Q's.
Yeah, yeah. But it's good though. I mean, it comes from a good spot, like
Hmm.
checking up on you. I think that goes back to like the whole idea of like sort of mental health and stuff like that. Like we need family. We need to know that we have people that are going to be there for us.
Mm.
Um, and so sometimes what may be overwhelming for some people, like if their family are visiting them, that could be not enough for another person.
Hmm.
So as long as you understand the intentions, I think that's what it comes down to. Like,
Yeah. No, that's big. That's
you remember the times we met? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I remember the times we hang out. I don't remember the first time that we met. I don't know if it was maybe during moving week. I saw you moving in or something and then said hello. But definitely remember the shared experiences and the roommates we had or suite mates we had were very interesting. Definitely not an experience I'd want to go through again, but I think it was definitely one to learn from. Definitely an experience that if anyone decides to go to college, I think they need to have just to realize that you have to be able to get along with people from different backgrounds. I mean, me and you, we're from completely different backgrounds. You're from a more rural area. I'm from a more urban area. You're Arabic. I'm African. But ultimately, what brought us together is bonding on the similarities. Our love for soccer, for example, pursuing STEM majors, stuff like that. So I think that's something that helped us stay as friends. And I don't know if we're another statistic to add to the stat that you saw on the billboard about eHouse. People that come in contact together, eHouse, have the longest friendships. But we've definitely been friends for a while now, so hopefully that continues.
yeah, hopefully, man.
But yeah, another interesting thing about college, and don't want to dwell on this too long, but we both came in with people that we knew from our hometowns. I went to high school with my roommate, and you often leave or college with a completely different group of friends, and that's one thing that's very interesting. But I was wondering, besides me, how did you meet other people that you still consider friends today on campus?
Yeah, like how do you meet other people? Like, I think coming in from my hometown, like I had like four other people that came in from my hometown that I knew that were in Chapel Hill,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have like 30 people come in from my high school. Like, there's some feeder schools, especially like in the Cary, Raleigh area where there's a lot of students coming in from one school from high school. So when I came, it felt like sort of like I went to a smaller high school. So coming in, it was kind of like like very overwhelming actually, like with the number of people, because you go from a spot where you know
Mm-hmm.
everybody, and then you come here and you don't know nobody. So you have to almost find enclaves of like groups of people, because people like to hang around each other that like are sort of similar. Um, like they would have similar events and stuff, but I often find that in these groups, there's like it's almost like an echo chamber. And so you have to find people within each group that are open-minded in a sense of like, you know, um, they could have different upbringings, they could have different like understandings or different schemas of the world, but they're able to understand that like, oh, while I have a different schema or while they have a different schema, we can still be like friends and still talk about things and sort of understand each other's backgrounds and grow
Mm-hmm.
from that. And there's always people who have that mindset, and then there's other people who are kind of like, I believe what I believe. I don't want to change what I believe, and I don't care about what you believe. Like it doesn't matter to me what you stand for, what you care about. Um, and so, I actually like went in to a lot of different events for different groups, like um, sort of the there's like the MSA, like the Muslim Association. There was like the Arab Student Association. There was the African Knights Association. I think you were part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
We had an event, African Knights, but
Yep.
what was the name of the like organization itself?
Oasis.
Oasis. There it is. Yeah, Oasis. You also had like the Vietnamese Student Association, which I would go to that sometimes, as the only like Arab there. And it's kind
Wow.
of funny because it's like, wait.
Did you meet Lee over there?
No, I actually met Lee from it was funny. So Lee, I met through someone else, and then we would see each other random spot through campus.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
it's like, we were like, hey dude, like it's like, dude, I
Yep.
keep on seeing you everywhere. And then one thing led to another, and like we're just like kicking it off about something random, like
Okay.
um I don't remember what exactly though. I think it was calc. Oh, yo, the first time I met Leo, that's actually funny you bring that up. The first time I met Lee, I like capped so hard. I told him I was from like the super rich country. And if you know Yemen, it's not. I told him that like, I ride camels and like, super wealthy, bro. My man, Lee, he believed it. And the next time I met him, he was bringing that up, and I was like, bro, I was capping, bro. I come from like a small ass town. All that stuff was like cap. I was just messing with you. But nah, Lee is a real one.
Yeah, for sure.
I also went like to Persian nights, something like,
I didn't know
yeah.
we had those.
They also had like the following semester, I went to like the Chinese, they had like a Chinese New Year celebration.
Mm,
Um, like these sort of organizations where like you meet people where people are like not homogenous, but like they share something similar, and they have this event that's like, and colleges have that where there's like an event where a lot of people who come from somewhat similar backgrounds, like it might be the same country, but it's going to be like somewhat of similar background, whether it's like religious background or cultural background or sort of national background. Um, yeah, and then so that's how I would go in there, I guess, infiltrate, meet people, and then I guess if I found that you were, I didn't have like a criteria, like it was just like walk in, meet somebody. Um, if you kind of cared about some of the things I talked about, then it's like, oh, I think are an interesting person. And so kick it off from there, link up. Um, yeah, I think that's how I built my friend. Uh, I guess not friend zone because you're using that for your podcast name, but like my friend
group,
group of friends, friend group. Yeah, there we go.
group. Yeah, yeah. That's that. Definitely how I guess anyone should build their circle of friends. I like how you mentioned how you didn't necessarily have criteria, but you had a feeling, you kind of had a hunch, like, hey, this person cares for me, and that's more of the organic ambience of creating or having a friend or forming new friendships. It shouldn't be like boom, boom, boom. does this person meet everything on my checklist? It should be, is this someone I can see myself, continuing to talk to? Is this someone that seems to care about me? And those things come more naturally from the conversations you have. Is this person paying attention, sort of thing? Um, and I love the different enclaves. I think you mentioned that you entered into. I had no idea you were attending all these different meetings. I mean, how did you feel in those spaces? Did you feel welcomed overall, or was it sometimes you felt like you were the odd one
Yeah,
out?
that's actually really funny you bring that up. I think I felt the most comfortable in spaces where I didn't have people that looked the most like me. And so it's
Mm.
kind of it's hard to explain. But when I was in, like, for example, when I would go to the Arab Student Association or the MSA, um, I mean, sure, like ethnically similar culture or religiously similar, but most of the people came from urban backgrounds. They came from places of where they're maybe a bit more comfortable. And so conversations weren't as genuine, I think, because of that. And of course, there's people in each of these groups where I was fine with. But in the other groups I found, like in other sort of spaces, maybe it's the language that sort of like separated out. Like if you didn't know the language, like if I went to, like, for example, it's like the Vietnamese night thing, right? And they weren't speaking Vietnamese necessarily, but maybe they had like a couple words they were using, right? And so the people who weren't using as many of those words, I was able to connect with them more. I don't know um, where I was going with this, but
Yeah, no, essentially, how did you feel in some of these different spaces that you entered? Did you ever feel like the oddball out in any of the enclaves that
yeah,
you
no, I didn't
roamed?
feel like. Of course, I guess you definitely feel like an oddball, but I feel almost comfort in being uncomfortable because I know that if I put myself in these spaces, I have a lot to pick up. Like I can soak up things, like sort of learn about the culture, different cultures that I can reference later. So, for example, if I went to Oasis African night for the Oasis, I'm able to go there and kind of see Kojo in, like, for example, the plays you were a part of. Not the Was it the talk, you were a talk show host at one point, right? And sort of listening to the jokes
Mm-hmm.
that people are using, and like, oh, that's an interesting point. I never thought about that joke. Or
Mm.
that's something that's like oh, that's something similar to like Yemeni culture, or that's something similar to this culture,
Mm.
and sort of like bridging sort of like these connections between the different cultures. I'm trying to remember. I think the Vietnamese night had some sort of like, they were talking about like wedding cultures and sort of like traditions. And I actually don't remember the name of the tradition, but it was something similar that we do in Yemen. And I was like, whoa, that's insane. I would have never thought that they have like something that's similar that we do. And so like that's something that's interesting, like just seeing those like things, like people don't know how close they are if they're not like sort of an ambassador or going into these other spaces. Um, and I think for the most part, college students are pretty I don't know what the word I'm looking for here, like kind, or not kind, but yeah,
Maybe open.
open to other people coming in.
Yeah. No, no, that's very interesting that you felt maybe more comfortable in spaces that didn't necessarily have direct shared aspects of their culture with yours. You mentioned earlier the idea of some of the members of the MSA, Muslim Student Association, and Arab Association, um, being comfortable, coming from more comfortable backgrounds, and you being open to being uncomfortable in other
Yeah, so I
spaces. What
think one
what
thing
exactly did you mean by
is
that?
there's always like the hidden meaning behind things. And so maybe like I being in those spaces where I would understand the hidden meaning behind things sometimes, I would be annoyed by the way that the conversations were going. I can't think of like a really specific example. Yeah, I can't come up with an
Yeah,
example right at the top spot. Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. I'm just wondering now, like you said, hidden meanings, or are you suggesting that there were like maybe innuendos, things they were hitting at that they weren't explicitly saying that ticked you off or came off as
Yes. I think
disingenuous?
Okay.
that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
It's sort of like hidden meanings behind things that were 100% disingenuous.
Mm.
And so it would be saying one thing and then maybe doing something else. And
Okay.
um, yeah, I think that would be the thing you can pinpoint is being disingenuous at times. Of course, this is not everybody, right?
Yeah.
There's, I think the best saying, and it's funny, I never like sayings, but I think this is a really good one, and my dad always says it. It's like there's a bathroom in every single house, and so the idea is that, and you could probably like, guess what it means, but there's always a bad apple or sort of a bad aspect
Mm.
in a group, in sort of in any setting, and so sometimes you might just interact with the bathroom accidentally. It might be the first door you walk through when you walk into a group of a culture or someone you're interacting with, or so give opportunities and chances to explore the rest of the room, the rest of the house, or the rest of the apartment.
Yeah. No, no, I don't think that's so random as you think. I think that's a great adage to live your life by because you go into different spaces, especially at university, and you don't know who you're going to interact with. But having that aspect, knowing that you're not going to get along with everyone, there's going to be at least that one person who maybe doesn't even get along with you. So moving from that, that's very important. I mean, how do you feel like ultimately people like us or anyone who may be listening should weed out individuals that are disingenuous, that maybe aren't looking out for their best interests or trying to get to know you for who you are?
Yeah, dude, that Kojo, man, that's a question. I think the way that I did it, sort of unbeknownst to me, so just like almost accidentally doing it, is sort of requesting, I guess, or asking to link up or hang out. It's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. And if you notice that things are being pushed above you, like for example, if you're like, oh yeah, we set an appointed time to link up, and it doesn't happen, and you find out like maybe later, or they don't update you about some kind of information that you need to know, so that you don't prepare yourself to meet with them. Um, you kind of get three strikes and you're out. I don't have a
Mm.
system, but like for me, it's like, all right, you did once, like you kind of didn't tell me until like after 15 minutes when we were supposed to link up, that, oh, something came up and I forgot to tell you. And it's like, well, I was already prepared to do this
Mm-hmm.
thing with you. Um, and, I'm not keeping like tabs or notes on like, oh yeah, this person, they got two strikes and, they've, in a sense, not fulfilled their appointment. I guess you can say it that way. Um, but at the same time, that's how you rule out disingenuous versus genuine people. A genuine person is going to be like, oh man, so sorry, bro. Like, I didn't finish my homework assignment. I got to work on it. I kind of like just pushed it back. And that's like, all right, cool. But if you're telling me that, oh yeah, I got to do this thing, this assignment, and then I see you out with some other group of people, I'm like, oh, okay. I see how this is. Okay, so I understand where we're at now. So that's an example I can think of. And you really don't want to keep those people close to you. You want to keep those people, you say greetings, hi, bye, but you want to keep those people as far away as possible. So of course, like you, Lee, all the other people I've stayed with in college, um, those are the people that I want to ensure that I keep strong connections with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just like the classes were trying to weed us out, you got to weed out the people that you also interact with. Um, Also, you mentioned the three strike rule, the informal three strike rule. It's kind of like with the saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, can't put the blame on you at all. So if you let it get to that third strike, at that point, you need to take accountability and move on.
Yep, I completely agree. I think that's beautifully said. That's exactly.
But yeah, Shukran, my brother. Thank you for coming into the friend zone. I'm going to wrap things up here, but I want to give you the opportunity to leave some final
Yeah,
notes if you have
I
any.
mean, this is my first time doing something like this. So I think that I'm really happy for you to sort of like, I know this is something you wanted to do and you're starting it off. I think this is like a great way to sort of learn about each other and also like just, understand like, I'm learning things about you, I think that I wouldn't have known otherwise. We're both very busy. So having like this appointed time where we're sort of linking up and bringing in people that I'm sure like you sort of have a similar system where you're bringing in people that are also genuine people that want to understand and live in a space in a world where everyone's understanding and trying to build on lessons and share them with others. So I'm really happy that you're doing this, bro.
Yes, well, I appreciate those kind words, Risk. This is the friend zone, and we'll see you next time. Hello there. Well, I'm glad you made it this far. If you could, please leave a like, comment what you thought about this video, and share. It goes a long way. And if you'd like to remain in the friend zone, check out these videos. Peace.